friends, because all of us have the same thing at heart, the best for our little town of Edenton. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Councilman Bond. Our next order of business is approval of the minutes. You have in your agenda packet minutes from all of our meetings in June. Do we have any requests for corrections or any comments to those minutes?
Make motion approval.
Okay, we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Assuming there's no discussion, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The next matter of business is our time for public comment. I'd like to remind our speakers that comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. And I believe we have 2 people signed up tonight. Is that correct? I think we got J.D. Grant and Joe Block. And J.D., if you'll come forward.
Absolutely.
And J.D., I always love hearing what you got to say, but I've got something caught in my throat, so I'm going to grab some water.
I'm doing the same thing.
And
That's
I'll
all right.
have one of your,
I appreciate it.
you can go ahead and proceed without me.
All
I'll be
right.
back.
I'm going to be very brief tonight. I just want to note that this weekend I was downtown during the 4th of July celebration, and there was an article in the paper that the town manager has done some research, spoken with the town attorney, and has taken some action regarding the protests that have been going on downtown. I want to say that the protest at 4 o'clock that came behind the businessmen who have organized a little gathering to ensure that everyone knows how good Edenton is. There were no signs over around the monument, excuse me. So I appreciate the actions that are being taken after members of the community have brought some concerns to the town. And Councilman Sellers brought it up at the last meeting as well. So I just want to let you know I appreciate the actions that are being taken. And I hope that, as Mr. King said in the, Malcolm King said in the article, that maybe we could find a way to put another monument there instead of worrying about moving it, to help alleviate the issue of whether or not it's going to be moved, when it's going to be moved. And that way everybody is represented. Thank you.
Thank you, J.D. Next we have Joe Watt. Joe, if you'll come forward.
Good evening. My name is Joe Walk, 218 West Eden Street. Mayor High, Council, Corey, staff, thank you for this opportunity to speak with you tonight. Edenton is a special place. Have you heard that? Yeah. I hear it all the time. I believe it. Whether it's family that's in town, whether it's guests visiting, I hear this is a special place. And I truly believe it is a special place. And special places don't just happen. They come from a lot of hard work, behind the scenes work that oftentimes is under-recognized, maybe not recognized, maybe taken for granted. I'm here tonight because I want to do a shout out to a group that does a lot of work, and I think a lot of us take them for granted. The Public Works Department of Edenton is doing an outstanding job. You know, David, and Tosh, and Eric, and Shannon, and I can go on. I don't know all the names, but there's a lot of them. And they pick up our trash, they pick up our recycling, they pick up our yard waste, they clean our streets, they fix our streets, they keep the water flowing. More importantly, they keep the sewers flowing, keep the electricity on, things that we all take for granted as we go about our busy lives. And the reason I picked tonight to come in and talk about it was because on the 4th of July, thanks to our Optimist Club, they put on this fantastic celebration down on our waterfront. And I don't know what the place or data tells us, but there had to be thousands of people at our waterfront. From Elizabeth Van Moore Park, down through the Cannons, in front of the Barker House, and in Colonial Park. Thousands of people enjoying themselves, eating, having fun, and with that comes a lot of trash. But the Public Works Department was on it. They were working all day long. They were working during the fireworks, and as the crowds left the waterfront, they swooped in and started working, and they worked well into the night. It was a late one for them. But I got up at 6:30 in the morning and went on my daily walk, and every trash can was empty, had fresh liner in it. There wasn't a piece of trash in the park. You couldn't tell that just a few hours before, there was virtually no evidence that such a spectacle had taken place down there. So to the Public Works Department, I want to say thank you. To council, thank you for funding them and supporting them. To Manager Gooden, thank you for your leadership. And to everyone in this room, everyone watching online, I want to encourage you. When you're out and about and you see Public Works out doing things, and they're real easy to spot because they have bright vests on all the time. Go over, take a minute out of your day. Go over, shake their hand, do a fist bump, whatever. Tell them thank you. Tell them you appreciate the part that they do to make Edenton a special place. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe, and I think your comments are a reminder to all of us, and especially those of us that sit in these chairs, that we probably don't thank our departments nearly enough. So I would echo what you have just said, and certainly they went beyond a call of duty, it sounds like, for the Fourth. So we appreciate you reminding us how important they are to all of us. The next order of business, we have a special presentation from Arian Mazel. Arian is our Chowan County Tourism Development Authority Executive Director, and each year the authority comes before us to provide council and the general public an annual update. So Arian, we'd ask that you come forward, and glad that you're here.
Hey guys, I'm Erin Mazel. I'm the Tourism Director for Chowan County, and first I want to say that I'm a county employee, so if you don't like my presentation, you cannot fire me. I am an employee. Here we're going to go through just this past year of things. We're on a fiscal year budget, just like you, and so at the end of the year, I typically talk to the county commissioners, the town council, as well as my board, and just do a year-end review on things that we were able to accomplish through our funding, which is completely occupancy tax. Which a huge thing is that this was the first year, this is my third fiscal year with Chowan County, and each year we've had been able to set a new record, but this one was big. We just hit the 300,000 milestone, so we were able to raise in the last fiscal year $304,000 in occupancy tax funds.
Yep.
Okay. So I went ahead and put 2022 as well as 2023 funding on the next few slides, just so you were able to see the difference and kind of get a base level. So here we have in just our calendar year, and you can't see because I'm talking, but it says $251,180.45. So that was our 2022 occupancy tax collections. And then I like to do a pie chart just so you can see which months are our busiest for tourists that are staying overnight, what we call heads and beds. Same for 2023, and now the number that I said earlier, which was 304,000, that's going to be different than this 262 because calendar year versus fiscal year. So you can see that December being our slowest, which makes sense, which is why we started kickoff to Christmas, as well as expanding as much as we could the Christmas candlelight tour, and then you can see the months that are kind of heavier in occupancy, of course, are the summer with the evening steamers, the waterfront, into that heavy period going into September, October, November, and then picking back up in March. So for our print summary, these are the places where we had paid and earned media, which is Our State, Wake Living, which is these are all magazines. Our State Magazine, Wake Living, Maine and Broad, Cary Magazine. So those three, Wake Living, Maine and Broad, and Cary Magazine, they're all under the Cherokee Company, which is based out of North Carolina, and they're all North Carolina, well, really triangle-based magazines, which is one of our main markets. It's really like DC and Ashland, Charlottesville, Virginia, Winston-Salem, Triad area, and then Triangle area of Raleigh. I often get the question about like Hampton Roads, and that's not a big target market for us because they'll go home after, and we're in the So we try to do a minimum of 2 hours whenever we do any of our digital or print ads, because we want people most likely to spend the night. But that's just a little sidebar. North Carolina Travel Guide, Southern Living, Raleigh Magazine, and then Tea Time Magazine, and more, due to, Tea Time was due to the big push for the 250th anniversary of Penelope Parker. So in the past year, some big web projects that we've been working on is we switched over from our old site to our new site, which took a long time, but very proud of our new site. Visit Edenton.com. Search function installation, search engine optimization, which later you'll hear me call SEO. Website launch and digital scavenger hunt, which was really cool. When we launched our new website, we had a digital scavenger hunt that we embedded, so people had to go through the site on several different pages and find hidden icons, and then at the end if they found all 4, then they got to be entered for a drawing to win a herringbone gift certificate, which was promoting people to not only go through the site that we worked hard on creating, but then to turn around and actually come visit Edenton and spend more money than just a gift card. Photography overhaul, we have over 1,700 new photos just from the last fall's photo shoot. Webpage, video installation, we have a 30-second clip now playing on a loop on our website homepage. Wander map installation, which is really cool. That is an interactive digital map which shows our, what we call online the Sip and Shop district, which you know is the social district, businesses that are open that day, their hours, what type of food, how much money, kind of those cuisine and shopping places are within, and then lastly, the resource webpage build-outs. 2024 influencer partnerships. PBSNC has visited once and is getting ready for a second visit. Visit North Carolina. They had 2 visits. All together, collectively, we had 7 writers. Callie White out of Greenville, who is local North Carolina, is her tag. She is a food critic, and we went through and gave her an appetizer crawl. So she had appetizers and crawled through downtown Edenton by foot, which promoted our walkability. Megan Grant out of Raleigh, Micah Caroline Beachy out of Virginia, and Tamika Harvey out of Tennessee. Some major projects that we worked on was the Visit North Carolina Media Kit. We did several itinerary creations that are now on the website. Cruisers Net, which has been working with, what is the committee called? What's the committee?
Mayor's Harbor Advisory
Yes, yes. I've been working with them, and so we did a big push to have new information on Cruisers Net, as well as a brochure for boaters. The Town Harbor Support, which is the ferry project, the new visitor guide, several pitch sheets that we were able to send out for not only sponsorships for Sounds of Summer and that rebrand and expansion, but also just for the summer programs we have going on. And then we worked on launching 2 Our State magazine online publications, and of course there was a lot to do with Major League Fishing. Next is our key performance indicators, which all this really means is, so CPC is cost per click. So pretty much an industry average is about 30 cents for cost per click, and we were able to obtain 10 cents, which doesn't sound like that big of a difference, but it's a huge difference when you're putting tens of thousands of dollars towards online digital marketing. So pretty much we were able to get our eyes on warm leads, people who are actually interested in visiting these coastal towns in North Carolina for a much reduced rate than other competing counties and other competing, what I call visits. For example, visit Elizabeth City, visit New Bern. We generated a 2.52 click-through rate, which means that we actually had people clicking through our ads versus just being seen. If it's just seen, it's kind of just like it doesn't necessarily make an impression on you, versus if you're clicking through, most likely you're becoming a cold lead to a warm lead. And then just some numbers about web page visits, which really proud of hitting over 150,000 web page views for the first time. And lastly, a big milestone was we obtained placements in all 50 states and several countries. So cost savings due to negotiations, we've saved over $26,000 throughout the fiscal year just on print ads, which means our state comes to us and says, hey, a full page ad is around $12,600, and we're able to negotiate. This works a lot with not necessarily national publications like our state, but especially North Carolina publications. We use to the benefit that we are, out of the 100 counties, technically the smallest. And so that actually kind of checks a box for them, and also checks a box for us, because then we get in bigger publications. So we use that to our advantage, and we were able to save, as just one entity, over $26,000. These are some brochures and printing that I designed and have implemented this year. I talked about earlier the Boater's Guide. This is the front and back. It talks about the Edenton Marina and what we have to offer here downtown, the walkability, Colonial Park, restrooms, pump out, courtesy car available, pet friendly. This is how we're able to. This is how you're able to obtain these services, who to call, when to call. And then this is our 2024 visitor guide that we produce annually, and that is both a digital version on our website, on social media, all platforms, as well as we print thousands of these, and they go to retirement shows, they go to local or statewide welcome centers. This little swamp constantly runs out, so we know that they're getting used, as well as they're always locally nice, because they have the points of interest here, which are typically like your welcome centers, your immediate needs, parking, which is like parking, pet-friendly accommodations, post office, government buildings, things like that. This is just an overhaul of our blog. We have over 11,000 monthly subscribers that I reach out to twice a month. So the first time, I believe it's the second Thursday of the month, they hear from me, and I give them a topic, or just some popular topics, for example. So maybe it's a Harry Jacobs tour, history and tour, and it's a blog about a newsletter that then turns into a blog about kind of what you can do around that, maps out your day on how you could go around any of these topics. And then the second time they hear from me is the last Thursday of the month, and it's actually projecting that next month's calendar of things to do. So that way it gives people enough time to be able to plan and come to Edenton. So that way we're not saying, hey, this weekend is Sounds of Summer. It's saying in 3 weeks there's Sounds of Summer. There's time to come and visit Edenton, and here's some things to do else that weekend while you're going home. So on the social media update, just kind of brings you from when I came on the team in 2021, we had 1,807 followers, and although it doesn't seem like a really huge number to go from 1,800 to 3,400, it is, because these are all organic followers that we're actually connecting with, and so that means that they're warm or hot leads. So we're actually not paying for any type of kind of like a connection with these followers. These are all people who are genuinely want to follow along with what Edenton is doing and visiting, and so it's very easy to then see that our engagement rates are high, as well as we post an original photo every day. Next we have Facebook. Very similarly, we have had a huge spike, so I went ahead and changed it this morning from when I did this PowerPoint back in March, because of, we had a huge uptick from MLF. But you can just see that naturally we went from 5,922 followers to over 12,000 followers. And then it just talks about like post engagement, post reach, new likes, new followers. Next we have our events. Before coming on the team in April of 2021, previously there had been a break of Music and Water Festival, which has now rebranded as Sounds of Summer, and there was no winter event. And we could see that there was a need outside, because Breakfast with Santa is in November, and then Christmas Candlelight Tour is more geared towards couples or, girls get away, but not necessarily that family piece. we were missing to be able to complete our perfect little hallmark town, having that family piece in for Christmas. So that's when I created, or Amber Hardy and I created Kick Off Your Christmas with the Polar Express trolley, and Flotilla had died for a few years, and we brought that back as well. And we can see an uptick in occupancy just from that weekend. Just talks about the visitors. Last year, Sounds of Summer data, we had 2,300 visitors right that within an 8-hour span when Band of Oz was here. And then this year we expanded it to technically 3 concerts plus Mickey on Broad and so forth. Looking ahead, these are the paid partnerships that we have for this upcoming year, which you're now in. Our state magazine, River City Skippers, which is in the same league as the Edenton Steamers, Visit North Carolina Travel Guide, Carrie Magazine, Wake Living Magazine, Maine and Broad, and several more. So these are all paid partnerships. Over the year, we also get, if I had to average between 10 and 15 earned media spots, which is like someone called me today and said, hey, we're doing a news piece on the top 15 restaurants on the coast of North Carolina. What is one you would like to submit? And we'll do our reviews, or we'll do our due diligence. But what's one that you would like to nominate? And so if that makes it through their filter, then that would be earned media because they are looking to somehow place a spotlight on Edenton. This happens a lot recently. Flipped through our state and just Captain Mark was in there. That wasn't paid, that was earned media just because they had heard about how great he was doing. So things like that. That's probably it. Yep. Any questions?
I've got one.
Yes.
And I know it's early,
Yes.
and you and I have talked about it several times, but what are some huge impacts that you've already seen from the Major League Fishing?
Yeah. So, I have had several people with Airbnbs call me and say, I have never had a bass fishing boat in my driveway up until that went, that was broadcasted, and now they've had 2 or 3 trips where they've had 1 to 2 bass boats at a time. This is now turning into a guys' weekend area where they're able to come for a day or 2 and line their boats up and be able to stay and fish in these waters. We know from early numbers, which I can send to you, that the views from an Edenton standpoint, which was stage 5 versus the first 4 stages, were a lot more. There was a lot more views. So I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but they said that they were much higher than the first 4 stages, and that this was the first time that the anglers were the first time this season, the anglers were so excited that they were actually kind of being in the ears of MLF about wanting to come back. And so all of that creates a lot of buzz on social media because these anglers are all vlogging and doing these video vlogs and sending out their own social media posts, which are just, it's making the network and the web of people that learn about the Chowan River much broader. And so we've seen an uptick in occupancy tax, obviously just from that month, but also, which was June, but also I have seen an increase of boats, and I've heard directly from several Airbnb owners that previously they had not had boats in their yard, and now that they do. So we haven't quite figured out how we'd be able to track too much like return on investment, but we do know that it's long term, which we had known the whole time, is that you're going to see these repeat customers of not only anglers but their fans. So it's something that we're constantly going to get the positive end of, because it's not necessarily a short-term return on, or a short-term return on investment. This is going to be drawn out, which is a good thing.
It appears we have a great rapport with Our State Magazine.
Yes.
Coverage these past 12 months has been fantastic.
Yes.
Who do we thank for that?
And a little bit of everybody. So it works a few different ways. Our State was actually here today. I spent the morning with them doing some videos. So that was a paid or that was part of our contract that I signed for the 24-25 fiscal year. And so a lot of it happens organically because the people that were here this morning were seeing things that they liked that then they're going to go back and tell writers about, and then that will become earned media So it's kind of, it's helpful to be able to have a community that has so many partnerships. And for example, I know recently Downey's preservation was covered by the magazine, and without all those partnerships that then Downey's mentioning, Elizabeth and more, like it gives a bigger view on how Edenton truly works, and that makes, I feel like, us one of their most special communities and something that they're able to continue to talk about because we're all kind of woven together. So I couldn't accredit it to one thing, but I think it's just how special this place is, and like what Joe was speaking of earlier, it's the people and the connections here. And yeah, and this morning they came because they were getting paid to do a project, but they left with so many ideas because of just the natural connections of walking up and down the street that they were able to find while here.
Do you think this has caused greater visitation from the Triad and the Triangle area?
I do. We can track that, and we are seeing more and more numbers from that, like Raleigh, Chapel Hill area, so that
That's
triangle.
fantastic.
Piggybacking on that,
Yeah.
their Instagram account loves Edenton. Is that, are we paying for some of those spots, or are those all organic spots because we're such a pretty town?
It's organic or it's pushed, like
Okay.
tagging, me sending them like, hey, we have, like I know this past week, both, I believe it was Visit North Carolina as well as our state had like, trying to explain, it would almost be like things to do in the state this month type of thing, and it talked about Edenton's fabulous 4th of July fireworks. It's pushing those, like that was earned, but it was earned because I was shoving it down their throats. So it's, you know, it's kind of up to date. We have not paid for social media spots for them. We have 2 right now paid content articles, they're called PCAs, on their website, but that says sponsored, and they have to be honest about that stuff. So that will say like sponsored by Visit Edenton. And then they wrote truly from their perspective how to spend the perfect weekend in Edenton, but we paid to get them here to spend that weekend and then them write about it. But that verbiage is clear in there, that it's their thoughts and their opinions. It was just a sponsored trip, very similar to influencers. Today they came and did it will end up becoming a Instagram reel, YouTube shorts, and a Facebook story that will live on their page for the next few years, and it will just be a short form video that talks about the recreation and outdoor aspects of Edenton and how to enjoy Edenton by boat, by foot, we literally had people out there kayaking today. Thank you, Timmy Turner. You know, just all the aspects on how you can enjoy Edenton, and so that. But again, that sparks a bigger conversation. So I think the biggest thing to be proud of is Edenton out of that. Anything else?
Any more questions or comments? Arian, thank you for the wonderful job that you're doing. I'm glad you're in that position, and look forward to continue big things out of you and the authority.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, if you have any more questions, just let me know.
Certainly.
Thank you. Y'all have a good night.
And Corey, I want to stay on topic and on agenda, but I did want to ask a question as we are sitting here today on our television screens that are to our left and in front of us. I see that we have the closed captioning.
I want to ask that too, yeah.
Yeah, and that's a result of the gentleman that came 2 or 3 months ago and expressed a concern that he couldn't hear and view
That's right.
the meetings.
We looked through a few options to find out what would work best with our setup. Tyler and our IT director, Corey Palmer, were able to find something, and it looks like it's working well there.
So
Did
that's,
we keep his name? Did we write down his
That's
name
what I
and
was
contact
wondering. I
information?
did.
And have we let him know that this is up and running?
Yep, I had reached back out to the gentleman and shared with him that we had found some options we were going to be testing, and that we should have something in place fairly soon. So
Make sure somebody follows up with him and let him know that we listened to him and see if it works for him.
okay,
Yeah.
we can do that.
Thanks. We next move to our new business, and the first item of new business that we need to discuss is a budget amendment. This is related to a new water well project. I'm pleased to announce that the town has received a 100% grant in the amount of $4.4 million, and this is to assist the town with meeting our water infrastructure needs, and is specifically for the construction of 2 new water supply wells. And Corey, if there's anything else we need to know about that?
We've been working through this quite a while since we got the initial offer and acceptance letter to the town, and then the approval back in June of last year. We did just recently receive the final versions of the preliminary engineering report and the review from the state. And so now we're ready to start spending some of this.
And these are to replace 2 water wells that are constant failure mode or pretty regular failure mode?
These are 2 wells that are our 2 oldest that we've had substantial mechanical and electromechanical problems with. These will be replacements.
They date back to how?
70 plus years.
Wow.
And so we just need a budget amendment to book this incoming income, is that correct?
That's right, Mayor. And also on that budget, if you take a look, Virginia also provided the expense lines that represent the total bill of this project as well. Yes.
All right, at this time I would entertain a motion for us to make this budget amendment.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion or any questions that any of you may have of Corey? There being none, all in favor of this budget amendment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that budget amendment is passed, and thank you, Corey. The next item that we have under new business is the consideration of the Albemarle Queen dock lease agreement. Harbor Town has requested a lease agreement for docking the Albemarle Queen at Edenton Harbor. Harbor Town is a private nonprofit whose mission is to develop the Harbor Town project and to bring more citizens to the towns in the Albemarle Sound region. The paddle boat is seeking to use a certain portion of the town's piers located at the foot of Wall Street and just to the east of the breakwater. The proposed initial term of this agreement shall be for 1 year, and if approved, we'll revisit it at the end of the year.
Yes, that's correct, Mayor.
And anything else that we need to know about? Okay. At this time, we do need action on this. I would entertain a motion to approve the lease agreement as
So
written.
moved.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions of me or Corey?
Is where it's been docked, where it's gonna be?
So there are 2 locations under consideration for the lease. One being kind of a safe weather location, which is where it has been, and then also an additional space during inclement weather on the interior of the breakwall further at the end of the breakwall itself.
And when we get the stuff built, we can move it always
Yes.
off on there.
Yeah.
This isn't
This,
permanent.
because it'll take at least a year for us to get that, and this is to get us through that time.
So it'll be a permanent place all the time, inside.
Yes.
So in case of hurricane, like September, October, we can.
It would be moved further in to a more protected harbor here. Marine, excuse me.
Okay, any further discussion and or questions? Okay, I'd like to call a vote. All in favor of the Albemarle Queen dock lease agreement as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that lease agreement has been approved. The next item of new business is the town administration is requesting an intent to apply for the Great Trails grant. The purpose of this would just be indicating our support of this particular grant. And Corey, I'll hand it over to you to talk more about the Great Trails Grant Program and what this specifically may mean for Edenton.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and Dwayne is here with us tonight. This is one of the grant opportunities that Dwayne had stumbled upon when we've been looking at some of the recreation improvements. And basically, on an administrative level, this would show council support of us, town staff working towards this application. The initial idea here is for us to at least start the process for the town creating some of its walking and biking paths, and to go after some funding for that. Dwayne, you want to go into any other details around, what your
Yeah,
initial thoughts are?
so there are a few moving parts. I'm trying to get some answers from the state. Received some conversations with one of the regional directors for North Carolina Parks. So it's basically the town would, because we're a tier 1 town, would have to cover the amount of non-state dollar would be $1 matching funds for every $4 of state funds. So basically, it's a 25. The town would have to come up with 25% of whatever the actual cost is. The idea is there's going to be some land acquisition costs. We've been working with a consultant on Hayes Farm and having that connected to Edenton, rather than having the pedestrians walk over the drive going into Hayes Farm. Would potentially be a walking path a little bit further north or east. So, I mean, still all up in the air, but it's just showing support that this is something that council supports, and we can move forward. I believe the deadline date is September 1st, the middle of September, so we'll be in a partnership with Elizabeth Van Moore Foundation as we move forward.
And really, one thing to add here, I think it's very promising that has a real silver lining on a lot of other concerns we have is during this process, as we've been working through to try to establish an idea of costs around particularly some of the railroad assets that have been formerly abandoned. Dwayne was able to establish a contact with them, someone within their agency that can work through those type of decisions.
What a great possibility for a
And
great
so,
way.
particularly for us, when we think about some of the opportunities going forward to expand our trail system, knowing that we have this relationship. One of the things that Dwayne and I have learned from our Main Street, as well as some of the North Carolina League of Municipalities visits that we've done, is they tell you to start somewhere. Well, what better place for us to start with at least having the conversation with the railroad and one of the assets that they own here at their old rail depot. And they said whether it's the end or the middle or the beginning, just start. And so for us, we see this as the first opportunity for us to start that, whether this be the center point or the end or what. At least having that contact, we'll be able to continue this conversation with the railroad in the future as we find other opportunities to develop more abandoned sites.
It's a great start.
Is this a federal grant or a state grant?
State.
I think it's fine for me to vote on it, but just to full disclosure, I'm chairman of the Elizabeth Van Moore Foundation. But I think we're all working together, so y'all do that, but still have to say it again.
Yeah. Appreciate you reminding us
Yeah.
of that. Any more questions of Corey on this agenda item?
I think this is a great start. Great start. Something we,
Great stuff.
you think the railroads will work with us?
I think so. We've had the most positive communication with them that we've had in a long time. They're very engaged.
They've had high turnover, and that email, the generic email, has been unmonitored for a long time. And they finally have switched some things around, so I'm hoping that this is going to be the catalyst to be able to start a conversation at least.
Super.
Okay, at this time, I'd seek a motion.
Second.
Second, we've got a motion and a second. So we've already kind of discussed it and I asked our questions, so I'll call for a vote. All in favor of indicating our intent to apply for the Great Trails Grant, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. We next move to our agenda item for the town manager's report, and as such, I'm going to hand that over to you, Corey.
Thank you, Mayor. And just to get started, as far as the manager's report, I'll start with the public comments. And I did summarize that we had received a total of 4 comments at the June 11th meeting, and I did want to try to provide a recap because there was some similarities in each speaker. Regarding the street and area light improvements townwide, although not entirely funded for entire replacement, We do have funds set aside on the area that is needed to be updated, either because of outdated technology or is currently not operational. We also consider the additional needs as gaps that are identified. We will continue, this will mark the third year of progress that we've been trying to make with either upgrading the existing lighting that's either not working or it's just beyond its useful life, and or adding in new. I remember some of the requests we had last year around this time around the old Hertford Road area where some lighting improvements were made at the northern end near the North Broad Street. And so that's an example of a gap that was identified and some additional improvements were made. And so I did want to share that. That was included in the budget for this year. The second item, particularly pertaining to the Hotel Hinton, and I did want to share with the general public today that we did receive some great news from Mr. Gupta from Saga, and the group did receive the approval of their amended NPS Part 2 application today. We are working on a larger press release from the mayor's office to also share that on all social media platforms. I do want to also just make a comment here that we did have to table the original planning board meeting that was slated for July 1st because of Mr. Submit not being able to be there due to an illness, but we did want to let the general public know that this was tabled for the August planning board meeting and the subsequent council meeting that would follow. As far as items considered timely and important, Council Miller had brought up questions around the Edenton Village Shopping Center tenants. Again, there's still no updates with the 3 tenants that have submitted the letters of interest. The property owner is still very much looking at that anchor for that larger space. Councilman Turner talked about a paving update. I did speak with Public Works Director today, and he has spoken with NCDOT. Then they do not have no updates from either contractor for Granville or Broad Street. But DOT did advise us that we were getting within a 6-month window of this work being completed, and the DOT was not and would affirm that they could not be in the area at the same time. So I did want to share that with the general public as well as the council. But as far as the start date, there are murmurs making their way around potentially the milling group being here at some time, but nothing official has been shared directly to DOT, and this is as of about 2:30 this afternoon.
I've got a question about that. Weren't both of those contracts let in May of 2023, and weren't they on an 18-month completion date? So I don't want them to do it on the 18th month, but they're starting to run out of time, which means it's hopefully going to be sometime soon.
Yes. And
Yeah, because we all hear about that a lot, and it's very frustrating.
What was the 6 months?
Nearing the end of
Yeah,
the 6
they're-
months.
6 months left.
of the contract.
Within
Yeah, we're within 6 months right now.
Yeah.
So, and Councilman Turner, that's what I was saying. I don't want them to come in and do it the 5th or 6th month. I'd like to see them out there next week.
Yeah.
But it's nearing the end, so they're going to have to do it.
Yeah.
But we did specifically ask, NCDOT will not allow them to be here at the same time.
Good.
So what does that mean from a contractual standpoint? I don't know, that'll be something that they'll have to discuss
So
internally.
does NCDOT give them the date or not?
The execution dates of those contracts, that's between NCDOT and those papers.
And that would be
Secret.
I'm sure we could find what that date was. that
Yeah, I'd like
was-
to find that date. I don't understand.
Yeah,
As to me.
we're getting close to the 18th.
Yeah, I think, and Corey certainly look into it so we can give the citizens better responses when we see them on the street in the grocery store. But I think the contract just simply states that if it was signed in May, that 18 months from that date it's signed, you have to do it. It's not a situation where they say, hey, you need to get down there by August 1st or, I don't think it works like that, but certainly find out if there's anything that
And
we can
DOT
do.
asked for extension, do they do that?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'll see if I can.
But Granville Street will be completed before you can touch Broad, correct?
Well, at this point, it could be either or. We were asked by one of the contractors to, kind of expedite some of the repair work to allow for that with the anticipation of them being here. And, that didn't happen, so, at this point, it'd just be.
Guess whoever gets here first, yeah.
Whoever gets here first.
Bottom line is, we don't have any control over
No.
it.
That's a fact. No, I'm not saying, it's just crazy
Yeah,
that
I mean,
there's no date. I don't know.
There's some people in Granville Street kind of waiting for somebody to come by and say, okay, next week we're gonna.
Yes. Well, I will try to find
Are you
out what
101?
I can on both contracts and the dates for those groups. Councilman Sellers had specifically talked about some of the monument protesters, and I did want to share. I did recently work with both groups of protesters and developed a list of restrictions and conduct expectations for both groups to abide by. Both groups were actually pleased to share their concerns with myself and to get a chance to work together to try to correct some of the things that they both had saw as issues. So that was actually rather surprising. And if you've noticed over the past 2 weekends, the demonstrations have seemed to be less intense, and we've actually received 2 positive feedbacks as of tonight from the general public thanking us for seeing some of the improvements that were a result of that. I have had conversations with both groups within the last week, and one as of today, and we're trying to maintain a level of openness and communication around permits, but I do think we saw tremendous improvements.
We also got a positive comment from one of the docents at the Barker House this past weekend, telling me that, hey, things are so much better down there because of your discussions with the 2 groups. Thank you for doing that.
Awesome. And the last item I had received was from Councilman Costin around the dog parks, and I did want to reiterate here that there's still no official plan for the dog park location. However, most of the initial improvements for Paxton, Griffin, and Stratford and Hawthorne are nearly completed. These included the shelters and the basketball court updates. Once this is all completed, we will review the remaining funds and reconsider all the new equipment and amenities at each park location. And these type of items would include the playground equipment as well as some of the other requested items from the general public, including the dog park. So we wanted to get through the most immediate needs, which were, we would like to see the playground shelters being added for families to use and host events at these locations. And then there was definitely some maintenance uptick that needed to happen around the established basketball courts. And so those were the first 2 things we started on, of which one shelter is completed, 2 basketball courts have been taken care of, and 1 shelter remains probably 80% complete, and the other one's probably 95% complete. So hopefully by the end of this week, we should see 2 of the 3 initial parts just done for the first round.
Phase 1.
Yeah, just the first initial ask.
It looked really good, those.
Yeah, I've got a ton of positive comments on it from all sectors of the community.
Yeah.
And that's everything I've got from my reports from the last meeting, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Manager Gooden. The next matter, we need to go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11A6 to, thank you,
Don't skip over us.
thank you.
Russians.
Yeah,
Sambo was excited.
thank you. Yes, Sambo, we'll start with you. Do you have any matters considered timely and important? Okay. Councilman Bond, how about you?
No.
All right, Councilman Miller.
I just want to piggyback on what Joe Walk said about Public Works. Phase 1 of the park improvements, fantastic, and thank the Public Works Department for everything they're doing too. And it's really, I'm like everyone said, we're getting favorable comments from the citizens in this town about what's going on at our parks. And it's really great to see some completed, some on the way to be completed, and some just starting out. And I know that's just phase 1, but it's really great. So thank you.
Nothing.
Mr. Turner?
I know we, and I hate to keep barking on paving, but I know we said we were gonna have a map of our biggest needs. How close are we to probably sitting down looking at that?
And we're into the new budget. That time is here. We need to review our last list that we had developed that were urgent needs and walk through those. I'll work with Public Works and try to provide an update at the next meeting, or at least with the agenda packet to show some ideas around streets that remaining based on the original 2017 condition assessment that was done that we've been working through. I should be able to have that in the next 2 weeks or less.
Yeah, and keep on bringing that up, as a timely reminder, but typically towards the end of the summer or early fall, we start talking about it so we can get that list finalized for the following spring, which we call paving season. It just hasn't been paving season on Broad and Granville, but we typically do that during the fall.
And so sometimes we get lucky and we're able to group streets into early fall and get started if that list is established, and then really pick up from where we left off because of how our temperature changes after the first of the year and really go.
Yeah.
So we get lucky sometimes if there's a mild winter.
Right, exactly.
So that means in the next couple of weeks, I'm gonna start getting my sidewalks and curbs.
I'm for your sidewalks at every turn.
No, I want you to. No, I want you to. I told you that.
I think you've got everybody's support on that.
Okay, if there's no other items that you would like to bring to the attention of the body, we now will move into closed session, and pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11A6, we need to discuss the annual performance review for our town manager. And so this time, I would ask the general public to respect the closed session nature of that discussion, and I also am going to need a motion second and a vote to do so. You got a second?
Motion.
Okay, all in favor of going into closed session for the purposes previously stated, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we're now